Welcome everyone to week 3 of IT3030 or IT3090, which is individual and team software projects. This week is about our initial proposal, which is due at the end of this week, and follow the instructions that they are on the LMS to be able to provide this initial proposal. Is only 5%, is short, but it needs to be punchy. So what are we going to cover in these slides? We're going to talk about the overview of the adaptive model, SDLC knows, Software Development Lifecycle Adaptive Models, and talking about the structure and formatting professional proposals. So what should be in that first assignment, 5% of your subject. Identifying and addressing weaknesses in project plans. So you can start thinking how we're going to run this and what will be the key things. And using project management and documentation tools for proposal submission. Some of the initial things I want to see in this week, but the big proposal, which is in week 4, at the end of week 4, is when I want to see much more application of these things. Now, know that project life cycle PLC is kind of what we be talking the start and the end of a project, but the key aspect here is that a project must gain approval to move from one stage to the next. So no one will let you go into developing a software without reviewing a proposal and you agreeing in the changes of that review. So this assignment 1, 5%, is that initial review, and assignment 2 is when people are going to commit resources to you, which is in week 4, 15%. It's almost like this is the first conversation you have with your client, and the next assignment is when you're actually going to submit the proposal. So let's talk about what is predictive plan driven PLC. So as a general sense, you can count this in your most projects, that the level of offer, particularly in software development, will intensify in the middle of the project, and then when you start to document it, it's gonna reduce. Yes, this could be in waves if you're doing agile or you're having a different strategy, but it becomes very important to understand that the level of effort that you put at the beginning in the planning, it is very important, but it's less compared to the effort to actually doing the project. So there are key parts of it that people call it, no, being able to do the charter, or being able to understand what the key stages of what you're gonna do, and then is the kickoff, the moment the project starts, and that is when you will know that the effort will intensify. Then you have a full capacity, which is executed, and you will produce progress reports on that. And we will have that in our Trello boards, which we will work about them this week. And then you start having project results and start closing things that are not working, finalizing, test with the users and so on. And that comes into the closing and realization. And you will have at the end the kind of administrative closure, hand over the project to your client, and then you expect they're going to have the benefits. So there's kind of a couple of models of that, and you can see it adaptive, change driven, or in this case, you can have it perform differently. The important is if it's change driven, you're constantly understanding what is the benefits of your project, but the level of effort will be the same. You need to chart it, interim reports, and you show results, and you show the change until there is the administrative closure and the project moves into the next phase. Let me move into key components of a strong proposal. Key components of assignment 1, 5%. Short but punchy, meaning it needs to have value. What are those? First, clear and concise objective. What is your application trying to achieve? 2, define scope and constraints. This is how much it's going to do, and I'm constrained by the software capacity, I'm constrained by the language capacity, I'm constrained by the bandwidth of the server. There will be limit resources in some points. This is the moment to reveal them. This one developer, we have, no, it's a subject that is 12 weeks. We only have now 9 weeks to develop, so we will have less time to develop the project. Feasibility analysis and stakeholder considerations are important. A structured timeline and milestones that identify what are the things that are going to happen based on the methodology that you're going to use to develop your software, and identification of potential risk and mitigation strategies that become important too. What there are problems, Might be software problem, might be software with stakeholders, might be software with the use of the technology that we're trying. For example, if you're using ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever, there might be problems. What are you going to have as a risk plan, and how are you going to address these things go wrong? You get sick, things like that. All right, I'm gonna take you to a journey. What will be good writing, formatting, and professional proposals? So, one, use clear structure sections. Tell us in a journey. Give us a whole of the project perspective, and maintain a formal and concise tone. Not just rely on dot points. No, give us something that convinces the reader that you have thought about the problem and you are able to deliver it with the resources and constraints you got. A project without constraint, particularly in software development, is not valid. I want to see those constraints from the start. Now, you need to include visuals such as charts, timelines, diagrams. I love mockups. In other words, pretending to be the software, no, and showing slides that do things, so you get the impression of the person of what you're doing. This should be part of what you should be submitting to in your proposal, particularly in assignment 2. Let me quickly go back and remind people how important is to understand what are the typical mistakes you can have. And those mistakes are related to not acknowledging what is a constraint in your project and what is the actual scope you're going to achieve. Now, let's talk about using industry tools for proposal development. I don't expect you to do everything manually. It is better that you use software that will help you doing a better proposal. Now, more than citation and reference for the software development, I want to see the ability to quote industry standard technical documents and other solutions that have been developed. They might be presented in a paper, or they might be presented in a commercial document. So that's what I want to say. So for citation and reference, you can use EndNote or Zotero, or much easier, use the Word system that allows you to use it in Word when you're doing it. Very simple. It's in references, and you can add the references and be able to put it in your document. APA is the standard, version 7 is the standard citation system that we use at the school. But without version control in your software, it's not going to work. You can use GitHub, GitLab, whatever you want. I use GitHub. You need to be able to have version control in case things go wrong. In terms you want to track what happened and who did that. And in that version control, you have to have README documents that allows you to understand what's going on, right? So that becomes very important. Now, project planning, Trello is kind of the preferred one. It's free. It allows you to have buckets that allow you to do it. So do a little bit of research how to use Trello. We will practice a little bit on the class, more on the next week. But you need to use tools that allow you to show project management. This is the things that I'm going to do. This is who's going to do what, including, for example, I'm going to send it to the lecturer for review, and I'm going to do pilots here and so on. And finally, documentation, Notion, and Confluence. In other words, you actually understand that every time you're moving in the project, you are able to document it. Definitely, you want to have a README file. You have a comment in your code. You be able to show others that you have progressed in a project, even if you, for example, use ChatGPT or another AI to help you generating code. You understand and you can document and understand what the code has done. We don't have to write every single line of code, but we need to understand what every single line of code does. Without that, it would be very, very complex to have a good project. So, in summary, and next steps, finalizing a structured industry-ready project proposal, preparing for final review and feedback from educators, and this week, week 3, I want to see the initial proposal, 1 page. Week 4, I'm going to work with you guys into a larger proposal, which is 15%. Please visit the LMS to capture what is the requirements, the outline for week 3 assessment, which is due this end Sunday, and is 5% of your score.